This episode of Coffee with Kenobi is sponsored by Penguin Random House Audio. Looking to catch up on the latest Star Wars books? Try listening to them on audio, featuring sound effects and music directly from the movies. Star Wars audiobooks are the definitive listening experience. From brand new audiobooks such as Thrawn and Empire's End Aftermath to our blockbuster movie tie-in editions, you'll have plenty to keep you entertained. Visit penguinrandomhouseaudio.com/Star Wars for sample clips and to start listening now.
This episode of Coffee with Kenobi is also sponsored by the Star Wars digital card trader collecting app from Topps. Celebrating its second year, the app is free to download from iTunes or Google Play. Collect and trade everything from legendary 1977 Star Wars cards to new cards featuring exclusive content from Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, Rogue One, and much more. All from the comfort of your mobile device. The Star Wars digital card trader collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z and Corey Clubb, the podcast you're looking for. This is, yes.
For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
We've been waiting for you.
The force is strong here, even stronger than the coffee.
At last! Where have you been?
Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. Here are your hosts, Dan Z and Corey Clubb.
Good morning from Celebration Orlando. I'm here with Mr. Corey Clubb. And Corey, it's been quite a journey to get from Celebration Anaheim to Celebration Orlando. We are currently walking from our lush convention hotel, and we are heading over to the convention center for the second time today. But before we get into that any further, here's Corey.
Hello there. It's interesting too, like we said, Dan, just the process of preparing yourself, mentally, physically for this excursion. Physically, yes. And just, being in the proper mindset of what's going to happen. And lo and behold, we didn't account for some things, I think. I don't know if I'm already breathing heavy just from walking. Yeah, it's interesting enough. It's fun because we're back in it, walking the sunshine right now. And earlier we were walking in the darkness. Why was that, Dan?
Because it was early. It was very early. Let's rewind just a little tiny bit. So I've been here since Saturday. I came with my family and we went to Disney World, which was completely a wonderful experience in itself. If that was all I did in Florida, it would have been absolute heaven. But as our little bonus, of course, we've got Celebration. So yesterday, I picked up Corey from the airport because he got here on Wednesday evening. And we were really debating if we wanted to go wait in line for the 40th anniversary panel. We've talked about it quite a bit. And ultimately, what do we do?
We kind of went to the idea of skipping out on the overnight sleepover and being able to, hang out there for the wristbands, and we kind of went downtown Disney that route and hung out there for a little bit, then crashed. And then the plan was to get up early and get in line, and we did so.
Speaking of crashing, we went to downtown Disney last night instead because we thought, well, we really would think ultimately we want to be fresh for the podcast stage later today. We want to have our wits about us so we can do our very best on the podcast stage. And so we went over to we went over to Disney Springs, had some dinner, had a roll of sandwich, walked around, and every shop we tried to go to was already closed. So that was good. And then we waited for our Uber, and it took probably an hour and a half for them to find us, which was a whole crazy in and of itself. So we didn't actually get back to our hotel till 12:30, and then we woke up at 4:30 to go wait in line for the panel. So much for sleep, huh?
That's right. But what's sleep all about, right? Just making sure your body's ready, making sure your mind's ready. That's nothing.
That's not a big deal at all. So we went over, and when we got to the convention center, it was, of course, dark still. And we walk around the building, and we walk around the building, and we walk around the building some more. I joked on Twitter that it was the length of 2 Star Destroyers, the line. That's really not that far from the truth. It was all the way around. Waited outside for probably 45 minutes to an hour, and then we went inside, and that's when the real fun began.
That's right. Yeah, it was. We actually had to queue up for the security line and make sure that, all our questionables were answered, and got in through that way, and then queued up again for the wristband line, and that was a fun endeavor. We've got cool photos up on Twitter. You guys check us out there. Kind of give you the idea of what the size of the line was inside Celebration itself. But we stood there for maybe, 3 hours? Sound right?
I think so, and it's sort of interesting phenomenon because when you're in these lines, we said probably half a dozen times, oh dear, this is going to be cool if it happens, but if it doesn't happen, let's just hope that it's worth it, because quite honestly, it really wasn't possible to know from where we were if we were going to get a wristband for the main stage. We'll just cut right to the chase. We did not get a wristband for the main stage, so we will not be in the actual room again. But honestly, I don't really know what else we could have done.
Well, again, then too, I think a lot of folks online were posting that it was sold out even last night. So if we'd gone that way, we might have gotten that and had not been skunked on the main stage. But it's okay. I mean, we're good with that. I think we could come to terms with that. I think that's something you have to just deal with. Like we talked about our last show, was just knowing what you're prepared for, how to have a plan B, and going that route.
And it's still cool because, we've gotten to see already some of our friends. We got to see Dave Motters. We got to see Mark Newbold. We got to see Jason Brame. Yeah. We got to see from a distance our friends from the Star Wars Report.
Tons of different fans in line.
Yeah, we talked to a bunch of cool fans in line. We're going to start recording and chatting with them very soon. It's so funny, this whole thing. You wait so long and then it's here. And so today's going to be exciting. Pretty much on the docket, what are we going to do?
Yeah, right now we're walking back to Celebration to get back in line and see the Celebration stage and the 40th anniversary. And then I think our next plan of attack is to hit up the Celebration store.
Yeah.
And see what we can get there. And I don't know, it's kind of a toss-up. I think 4:30 is kind of a locked-in time, though.
Yeah. 4:30 is going to be the Celebration podcast stage, of course, where we will be. We're very excited. We still, at the time of this recording, aren't 100% locked in with our guests, so the guest may be you, which is good. You're a good guest to have. So we're very, very close. We're going to go through security right now, and we will be back very, very soon. Okay, we made it inside the stage. Dave Motters was awesome enough to save us a seat. Thanks, Dave, for doing that.
You're welcome, guys.
We are excited. The show begins momentarily. Corey, any pre-show thoughts?
Yeah, I'm glad we made it. I pulled a cramp on the way over, but that's okay.
That's right. Yeah, we'll walk it off, and we're going to see what happens.
So much. What a lovely welcome. Thank you. Thanks very much. Excellent. Wow. What can I say? Welcome to Star Wars Celebration in Orlando. Yes. It's great. Everything I say, we're going to cheer. It's fantastic. This is the center of the Star Wars galaxy for the next 4 days. Oh, yeah. Now, in case you haven't realised, this year marks the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. Can you believe it? It's been 40 years, and I still look so young. Yeah. Now, here at Celebration, we've lots of surprises in store for the very biggest Star Wars fans in the world. Those of you here in Orlando, you lucky, lucky people, and those of you watching via the live stream from places far, far away. Hello to all of you as well. Absolutely. So now, let's kick the show off and make the jump to light speed by celebrating the legacy and fandom that is 40 years of Star Wars films. There will be a lovely movie now. Or I could sing and dance, who knows? Here it is.
What you see in your head, if you're a filmmaker, you turn it into images that move. But when you put it into the real world, it takes on a different life.
He
It's kind of nice to be the first person into the theater to see something you've been waiting for so long.
I've been waiting all year. I'll go see it, my kids will go see it, and I'll go with them, and I'll probably sneak in again on my own.
Was it what you expected?
No, more, much more. He's so gorgeous, Harrison Ford. I saw Star Wars 21 times. You've been here for 6 days, and it's great!
I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but it's, as far as the way we feel about it.
The Force is strong in my family. My father has it. I have it. My sister has it. You have that power too.
Made us feel like we were kids again, and that's what Star Wars is all about.
People's love for it, it's just massive.
Who loves Star Wars?
Star Wars phenomenon is bigger than ever.
Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, the most phenomenally popular serial in movie history.
Some count down for months to be the first ones inside. 2.5 million people.
May the Force be with you.
That kind of movie that you just go like, I guess we'll have to eat this boring oatmeal.
Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father.
She's fast enough for you, old man. That sucked. I'm sorry.
I really wanted to take the values, the teachings of one generation and move it to the next generation.
I don't think anybody thought that they would make these films again. And it's happened. And we're lucky enough to be part of it. Star Wars, it's so enormous in culture, even if people think they have no knowledge of it whatsoever, they do. It's always been there.
I've listened to more fans, I've heard more fans, I've met more fans. These films matter to people, and now it's being passed on.
Maybe in the future you will be there.
The love of the fans really makes it a worthwhile job.
They're sharing something that moved them as a child. That does heal people. When you can have that thing in common, and then you can find others.
Amazing. And I was one of those kids. I remember those times so vividly. And now it's my pleasure to bring to the stage the president of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy.
Everybody. First of all, thank you. And thank you for those who slept out last night.
I think you're going to be really pleased with what we have in store for you today. And I'm sure, like me, you can't quite believe that it's been 40 years. I know some of you, not quite that long, but for those of you that were around in 1977, it is truly going to be an awesome celebration. When George Lucas first asked me to join Lucasfilm, I thought I had some idea of how thrilling and surprising and frankly emotional this was going to be. You know, creating more of an expanded Star Wars universe. But what I've experienced has really exceeded my wildest dreams. And you and the films are the most important part of that journey. Your passion, your dedication, and your love of Star Wars, you guys have no idea how that inspires us every single day. We consider all of you a part of the Lucasfilm family. And what an honor it's been to also work with some of the original trilogy filmmakers and the cast and crew, and also some of those filmmakers who weren't even born when Star Wars first came out. But the greatest honor for me is to acknowledge the man whose collective genius has brought us all together today. Please welcome George Lucas.
Welcome to Celebration, George. Does that always happen when you walk into a room?
Not like this.
No.
Not like this.
So, firstly, thank you for being here at Celebration.
Thank you.
I mean, it's absolutely incredible. We're celebrating 40 years of Star Wars. How do you feel? How does that make you feel? Apart from old.
Well, the shock was, I hired you when you were 11 years old.
Yeah.
And now you have gray hair. Let me know what 40 years is.
Well, it's the stress of the business, you see, that you introduced me to. That's what's done it. So, now watching that video that we saw, I mean, it brings back so many fantastic memories. The moments, the people, the fans, and of course, among those faces in there, two faces that are of true legends that are no longer with us, sadly. We recently lost Carrie Fisher and Kenny Baker. Now, absolutely. Now, these were two people who were inspirational to me in my early career, and I just want to acknowledge that we all love and miss them, and will continue to celebrate their legacies during this show today, at the event, and also beyond. Now, George, cast your mind back, all the way back to the early 70s. I want to know about that moment you first came up with Star Wars. Where were you? What was going on?
Well, you know, again, Star Wars evolved. It didn't come out in one thing.
Well, there wasn't a moment.
There was a moment, but it was like an idea.
See,
and the idea was more, I would like to make an action movie, which is more like a Saturday matinee serial that I enjoyed as a kid, but imbue it with mythological, psychological motifs, because we don't have any of those today. So I said, well, I'm going to take these two things and put them together. And again, I did it, and then a few years later, I ended up making a deal with United Artists. They said, what other movies do you have? Because I was making a deal for American Graffiti. I said, I have this sort of space opera thing. They said, okay, we'll do a deal for that. The one thing you've got to learn about studios is that if you get your break, you say, I got a script. They say, well, we'll do that, but we want to own you. We want to do all the films you ever have made in the world. And you say, well, that's fantastic, until you get to the next level and suddenly you realize you've signed away your life. But, so anyway, it wasn't really until, because I wasn't even thinking about it. I was thinking about American Graffiti. That was the movie I was making. And so then what really happened was, after American Graffiti, the studio considered it to be so bad they wouldn't release it. So I was out of a job. I'd made one movie, which was a cult favorite, which I liked, but nobody else did. And then I did this other rock and roll film, which wasn't even good enough to be released. So when I went into the world, there's this other side of all this, which is, I say, they want to own you for life. Well, if you have two films that aren't successful, they don't want to see you. They don't even have lunch with you. They don't want anything. They don't even know who you are. So, but in American Graffiti, in an effort to get people to surround it, we had all these screenings, and at one of the screenings, the head of 20th Century Fox came, and Alan Ladd Jr., and he just came up to me afterwards and says, I love this movie. I think this is the greatest movie of all time. I want to do your next movie. I don't know what it is, but you're a talented guy, and I want to make the movie. I said, well, I got this movie. It's sort of a space opera thing. We have, I make dogs driving spaceships. And he goes,
that's a good pitch.
He said, okay, I'll do it. And he followed me all the way through, even though the board of directors had said, what in the world is this? And right up until the very end. And he fought for it, and he helped me make it, and that's when I began to own the idea, because I was still writing scripts. And any of you that read the books, I took an idea and I was looking for a story, I was looking for a thing, I was looking to make it be something. And so I went through a lot of different versions of it, and until I finally got to the one, and even when I was shooting in Tunisia, I was still rewriting. So, the idea was simply to do a high adventure film that I loved when I was a kid, with meaningful psychological themes. And, I don't know what I felt. It was like a really cockamamie idea. So I did that. But, again, seeing the film tonight, seeing it when we were shooting in various places after the first one, seeing all the kids, it's hard for people to realize, and I'm not supposed to say this, and I wasn't supposed to say it then, but, it's a film for 12-year-olds.
But it brings out the kid in all of us, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it was designed to be a film, like mythology, of this is what we stand for. You're about to enter the real world. You're 12 years old. You're going to go on into the big world. You're moving away from your parents being the center focus. You're probably scared. You don't know what's going to happen. And here's a little idea of some of the things you should pay attention to. Friendships, honesty, and trust, and doing the right thing, living on the light side, avoiding the dark side. Those are things that it was meant to do, and obviously the real thrill was when I see some of those little things, but I see the fans, and we, when we were in Spain shooting Padme's palace, you know, there were 10,000, like here, and they were all little tiny kids. They were reaching through this fence. It was a metal, it was like, you know, the White House. It was a, you know, it's a national landmark, that palace.
Yeah.
And they were all reaching their hands out, even little tiny ones. They had no idea who I was, but all they wanted to do was touch my hand. And I said, you know, this is what I did it for. Everything, none of it makes any difference, except you know, in the real world, you know, the critics, certain fans and things, you know, they're not very kind. But when you see all these little kids and you see the look on their face and what it means to them, it forgives everything.
Well, you know, George, I was absolutely. I was one of those kids, you see. I mean, at 7 years old, I remember seeing Star Wars, and I immediately fell in love with it. But little did I know at that point, 4 years later when I was 11, you would give me the opportunity to go to that galaxy far, far away and meet my heroes, which was incredible. And since then, Star Wars has become an integral part of my life and career. Not a day goes by that I'm not talked about Star Wars, somebody doesn't talk to me about Star Wars. And I just want to have this opportunity now to say thank you, sincerely, George, for all of the opportunities you've given me making that schoolboy's wish come true. So thank you very much indeed. And I've got a letter here actually that I wrote to you just after we finished filming Jedi back in 1983. Dear Mr. Lucas, my name is Warwick. I hope you remember me. I helped you make the new Star Wars film last year. I hear that the film is being released in this country on June the 2nd, and that a few of the toy shops in London have some of the new figures. I hope this is not too rude of me to ask, but would it be possible for you to send me the very latest figures and walkers? Now, I was hoping very much that there might be an Ewok or Jabba the Hutt. I was a Jabba the Hutt fan, obviously. I did enjoy myself with you and the members of the film unit. And keep remembering what a terrific experience it was. Kind regards, Warwick. And here's a picture of the 13-year-old me with my wonderful collection of vintage Star Wars figures. And you know what? I still got that collection to this day, minus the vinyl figure capes. You always lose them, don't you? So I've still got it all. I've still got it all. Now, an important part of the Star Wars legacy has been the stories told on television. For 6+ seasons of the brilliant Star Wars Clone Wars, fans of all ages learn more about the characters they know and love, but were also introduced to a vast array of new characters that are now fan favourites. That legacy continues with the critically acclaimed Star Wars Rebels. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Star Wars Rebels executive producer and supervising director, Dave Filoni. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, wow. Great.
So,
where were you again? Yeah.
This is one of my kids. This is one of my kids. He didn't start when he was 11, but, you know, he didn't start when he was very young.
You know,
and he had a lot of bad ideas that had to be purged from his mind.
Purged they were, yes.
Yeah.
Dave, I mean, George is alluding to that there. You've learned a lot from George, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of a mentor, yeah?
Yeah, I would say I'm really lucky, you know, I mean, listening to George talk about the movies. What you just experienced, hearing him talk just now, is kind of what I was able to get for 10 years working on Clone Wars, and they're important lessons. And I would say the most important lesson there, honestly, and it kind of combines everything, is he used to always tell me, don't be afraid. And to explain what that is to me is like, it seems very simple. Most of the big ideas you have are very simple. But when you're coming on board to like direct this major franchise that all of you love and around the world people love, it's easy to get overwhelmed by that idea. And that is going to limit you, and more importantly, limit your creativity if you become afraid of it. So you can never be afraid of things, to try things, to experiment, to do things that haven't been done. When we would find something that a lot of people would say, well, you can't do that, it's the first thing George would say, okay, we're going to do that. From the way that we produced the Clone Wars, which was not with storyboards traditionally, we did it a completely different way. We had a program that George had been developing, and he said, we're going to use this new program. It's not tested, but it will never work unless we put it on production. I know it'll be difficult, but I need you to do it. And we did it, and the show got incredibly better because of that. So, I mean, it's just a true thing in life, as you've always said. Just don't be afraid and make no decision out of fear. That's key.
George, tell me why you wanted to bring Star Wars to television.
Well, I've done Indiana Jones for television. And it's a great experimental cauldron, because there's not that much at stake. You're not saying here's $100 million, it's all on your shoulders, and the next 4 months, if you screw up, it's all gone. It's a way to be able to put out a lot of product, a lot of stories, and that's really why we started the Clone Wars. I said, this is an interesting idea, we could do a lot of stuff in this. And so it really came out of the idea that there's a lot of stories there, and I'd like to tell those stories, but would never be able to put them in a theater, because they're more interesting as a long form than they are as a short form. So that's why I experimented in television, all of the stuff, which, as I say, part of it is the stories and being able to play with stories and do things that nobody would ever do. I mean, my whole life is, well, you can't do that. And Dave had to put up with the same things that everybody at ILM had to put up with. You know, Dennis Murin and those guys and John Knoll, they all had to put up with me. And I would come in the morning and I'd say, we're going to do this and this and this and this, and their jaws would drop and they say, oh, he's not really serious. I say, we can't do this. And I'd say, you can do it. Come on, we'll do it. And we did. I pushed them through it, and they did it, and they came through. It was like, you know, everything, a lot of the things we did have never been done before. And that scares everybody, because we don't know how to do this. I said, well, we'll figure it out. I said, but the show, the thing. I said, well, we'll figure it out. But with ILM, we went from old-fashioned visual effects to digital effects, and created the digital cinema. And it was the same thing with animation, especially the Clone Wars, which we were trying very hard, and I think we succeeded in doing a feature quality TV show. The lighting, the characters, the animation was all feature quality, and we did it on a TV budget. And we were able to tell stories and expand the universe and bring in, you know, great characters like Ahsoka and that we would never been able to have.
So George, you're always raising the bar, aren't you? That's what you do.
Yeah.
You raise the bar and everyone else follows. You're always leading the way with this stuff. Yeah. So Dave, episodic TV, social media, it allows Lucasfilm, the cast and the crew to have a direct connection with fans. Why do you think that's so important today?
Well, I am a fan, so I mean, it's easy for me to answer. I mean, you look out here, and the TV series let us do something kind of unique, which was we were on all the time, week to week. So we were able to give fans a Star Wars storytelling experience every week. And in today's media world, you know, people wanted to connect with us more and more and more. And the actors on Clone Wars were really good about being out there, being open with people, connecting with the fans. It's a way of, you know, making this the community that you see. And it's something that we respect at Lucasfilm. We know how much people love this, how important it is to them. So it's important to reach out to them and make you guys feel as much a part of it as we can. It's I gotta say, it's been a real privilege for me to be a part of this in any small way that I have been, to be up here with you guys, you know, because I grew up watching your films. And the only thing I always think is like, your films must have really worked because I really got the message that you were trying to tell. I've grown up, when you see these characters like Old Miss and you say, I shouldn't do that, you know, because Luke wouldn't do that. That's the wrong thing to do. And that's the point of telling the story in the first place, is to give you that kernel of inspiration. And now I do feel the responsibility to pass that on, especially once you taught me, Master, I will pass it on as best I can.
We'd like to thank you for all you've given to the Star Wars universe. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Dave Filoni. Now I've got a treat for all of you. It's a very special message from someone who wished he could join us here today. I think you'll recognize him.
Hello, everyone. Well, 40 years of storytelling, mixing myth, mythology, legend, technology in this extraordinary cinematic form. I'd be very honoured to play Qui-Gon Jinn in The Phantom Menace. I'm actually here on location in the Canadian Rockies. We're making a movie, a very unofficial movie, about Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar. Spoiler alert, he did go to the dark side. Have a great time, everyone. May the Force be with you. May the Force be with you always. Take care.
The lovely Liam Neeson there. Thank you for that, Liam. Now let's take a step back to the films where we learned always two there are. That was Yoda, by the way. Please welcome Ian McDiarmid and Hayden Christensen.
George just said dark side rock stars, but because of your reception, thank you.
What a wonderfully sinister reunion we have here. It's fantastic to see you.
Well,
it's really good to see you guys.
So, Ian, George created for you some deliciously evil scenes.
Yes.
Do you have a favourite?
Of all the deliciously evil scenes, and there are many, in fact, I can't think there is one scene that isn't deliciously evil. The one that stands out for me is in Revenge of the Sith, and that's when we all get to go to the opera. George will remember that he wrote that scene originally in another office, and I kept getting bigger and bigger offices all the time as I got more and more powerful, because, you know, that's what happens. And then he said, no, I think we should go somewhere else for a change. So we went to a theatre, and the reason I like doing that so much, because I'm a theatre actor too, but more than that, Hayden and I could really sit down and, from my point of view anyway, have an evil chat. And I think, George, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's one of the longest dialogue scenes in the whole of the saga. And I was allowed to tell a story, you know, and really, really connect. So that was exciting too.
Fabulous, fabulous. Hayden, tell us what it was like working with Ian, a hugely experienced actor. Were you intimidated at all?
Working with Ian was just a real treat and a privilege. I mean,
Everyone knows that he's such an amazing actor, but he's also an incredibly generous actor, and really kind of took me under his wing and was just very caring and giving, and I owe a lot of what I was able to accomplish in episode 3 to being able to work with Ian. You know, that scene that he's talking about was one of my favorites. I remember just being so enraptured with the story that he was telling that I almost forgot that I was acting in the scene. I was like, oh no, I gotta do my part now too. But it was, you know, he's so captivating in his work, and it was amazing.
Well, it's a truism that older actors learn from younger actors too, and working with him was a great learning experience.
I'll just say, the one testament to Ian's acting and how great he is he's the nicest, loveliest, kindest, sweetest guy in the world. He is nothing at all like the Emperor.
Yes, well, maybe occasionally.
So, Hayden, not only did you deliver a brilliant acting performance, but also your lightsaber battle at the end of Revenge of the Sith was epic. Can you tell us a little bit about your stunt training for that final battle?
Yeah, sure, of course. I mean, all of the lightsaber work was some of my, favorite parts of getting to play this character and be a part of the Star Wars world. It was just a childhood dream come true. But I will share with you one of my challenges. I had sort of been conditioned from a very young age to make the sound effect. I know this was something that Ewan maybe struggled with a little bit too, but it was a difficult habit to break. And I remember on a couple of occasions, George, you would come over after we had filmed a fight scene, and in a very encouraging way, you would say, "Hey, that looks really great, but I can see your mouth moving. And you don't have to do that. We add the sound effects in afterwards." And I was just so focused, I wasn't even aware I was doing it. But still to this day, I pick up a lightsaber and I can't help it. It just happens.
These guys, Ewan and Hayden were so brilliant at it, and they practiced every morning. And I used to occasionally see them when I popped in to practice a little. But the extraordinary thing about was, every time we did the takes, there must have been about 20, probably more, they did the whole sequence, which was absolutely extraordinary. And when you see it in the movie, it's terrific, but necessarily it's edited and split up. And I used to say they should take their sabers, both of them, and get on the road to show how brilliant fighters they really were.
Tell us about your first meeting with George and how he described this character to you.
Oh yeah, well he didn't. George doesn't go in for lengthy explanations, which is great. We met very briefly over lunchtime with Richard Marquand. This is, of course, Return of the Jedi. And I was very pleased to meet them both, thrilled, of course. And then we said our polite goodbyes, and I went back home, and the phone was ringing. My agent said, "You've got the part." I said, "Oh, that's great. What's the part?" And he went, agents do, leafing through piles of, papers, and they said, "Oh, apparently he's called the Emperor of the Universe." So I said, "Oh, well, I guess we're doing it then." And from then on, it was makeup, hood, yellow eyes, and the script. And I think most of my information, and most actors would agree about this, came from the script. Although George was always around and very helpful, but of course he wasn't specifically directing that movie. That was Richard. And of course I got to go on doing it, and when we met again before the prequels, George was there wearing a very similar shirt to the one he's wearing today. And he said, "Oh, can we get you a drink?" I said, "Well, I'll just, no, it's just, coffee, water." I said, "I'll have the water." And then he said, "Do you know anybody who wants to play an emperor?" So I said, yeah, that's me. And that was the audition for the prequels. And then he said, There are two characters. The character you play in this he's Palpatine, of course, and he's a hypocritical politician. You know, we've all got to start somewhere. And but there's this other character, and he didn't tell me the name. You know, he's in the background. He does this and he does that. And I thought I'd really like to have played that other character. And then I got the script, and I realised I was playing both of them. And so did you eventually, apparently.
George, isn't there a story you were particularly taken with Ian's nose, though?
Oh. Well,
look at his profile now. It's quite
I think you deny this. When we left that very short and agreeable meeting in the doorway, you said, "Hey, great nose." and I thought, wow, maybe that means I'm going to get somewhere.
Sure, I don't remember going. Yeah, you did.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for being so brilliant here today.
Good to see you all.
For your contribution to Star Wars, ladies and gentlemen, Ian McDermott and Hayden Christensen. Well, next we have a greeting from yet another member of our Star Wars family, who unfortunately couldn't join us in person today, but sends his 40th anniversary best wishes.
Hey everybody, sorry I couldn't make it. Busy as usual, but I just want to say it's been a real honor and privilege to be a part of the Star Wars community. Thanks, George, for giving me that opportunity and letting me ride it out through at least 3 episodes. Wish I could be there so I could sign everything you brought for me to sign and just say hey to everybody in person. And while you're all sitting there, I know you're all in my corner on this, we know Jedis can fall from incredible heights. We know the long and rich history of Star Wars characters reappearing with new appendages and being stronger and better than they ever were. Mace Windu is awaiting his return. Let's make it happen. See you soon. On screen, I hope.
A brilliant Samuel L. Jackson. Fantastic. So now I'm going to invite a few more friends to join us here on stage. Please, and I'm sure you will, help me welcome a protocol droid, a Wookiee, and the Baron of Cloud City, Anthony Daniels, Peter Mayhew, and Billy Dean Williams. Gentlemen, the last time I saw you 3 together, you were dancing up a storm in the Ewok village.
Yeah, and I'm still embarrassed about that moment.
So, Anthony, tell us about your involvement in creating the original C-3PO suit all those years ago.
God, do we want to go there? George, you promised me, I don't know, fame, glamour, all that kind of thing. And I had to take my clothes off to get there, didn't I? I had to stand naked whilst people threw plaster at my body to make a statue of me. Do you know how disgusting that was? That was pretty bad. But eventually, do you remember Liz Moore, the sculptor, who took my body and then put clay on it, made all the shapes, and then you and other people, it was all made in plastic and whatever, and you used to come and stand in front of me and then poke the knee and say, why doesn't that work like that, or why doesn't that, the elbow. You were totally involved. And then one day, there were like 6 3PO faces. There was like a Roman face and a kind of alien face, and they were all great, made in clay. And then there was one at the end, and I said, well, I like them all except that one. And you went, oh, that's the one we're having.
Did you do that on purpose because you knew he liked that one? Or was that the one you did?
It was the gold one, yeah. But it was grey at the time. It looked kind of weird. But it worked out really well, and I'm very grateful for your kind of input, because you had the whole film, and yet you would come and sort of say, that's not right, or, you'd fiddle with it. And it was your idea to make it all Art Deco, wasn't it? Why was that?
What? The rubber bubble?
No, the whole Deco look.
Well, it comes from a long tradition of robots throughout history.
Like, there was one other.
But, it's the key to the construction of you was the fact of the face. The face had to be absolutely neutral so that you could act, and your acting would come through, and it wouldn't be counter to what your face was doing. So by having your face be completely neutral, everything you did and your movements, which is why I hired a mime, because the acting was in the physicality of it, so that was it was very hard to come up with a face that was completely neutral. You walk in and you say, well, what is he thinking? Nothing. And as soon as you're in it, suddenly this whole personality was there, this whole character was there, and everything was there. And it wasn't against the...
As a result of your brilliant performance, you are the
Sorry, I didn't hear.
I'll say it again. As a result of your brilliant performance... You can leave through the dock door, it's nice and large. As a result of that performance that you gave, that they all enjoyed, you are the only actor to have featured in all the Star Wars movies. Now, please tell us your favourite memory from working on those films, perhaps related to this gentleman over here.
There are so many, I've been backstage listening to everybody's stories. It's brilliant and very, very touching. One does come to mind. Do you remember how kind of flummoxed I was when it turned out on set on the first day that, whereas I'd been reading all the scripts and R2 says this, 3PO says this, R2 replies, and there was nothing. And I was kind of like, and eventually I said to you, George, when I finished my line, could you make a sound? Could you go beep? And you went, sure. Beep. And I decided I was better off on my own, George. but do you remember that? But many years passed, and in fact, many films passed, and there we were flying out to Death Valley to go on the road to Jabba's palace. Do you remember? Right. Little airplane. And they were setting up this box with a window in it to make the matte painting of Jabba's palace. And once they were doing that, I kind of, walked along, sort of going, Lando Calrissian never returned from this awful place. And suddenly behind me was beep, 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 beep. And there was you going, beep, 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 beep. It was the cutest moment ever. I just loved it.
So, Peter, the mighty Chewbacca there, a beloved character. Tell me, Peter, how are you and Chewie similar?
Well, we're the same height, for starters.
Good answer.
And I have blue eyes, which was specific on a certain gentleman's drawings. So,
what I mean is, do you share any of Chewie's characteristics? Anything that any of his skills?
Yeah, I can maintain a Falcon.
Have you?
Yeah, oh yeah. You take 3 plugs out and drain the oil. So, yeah, there's a lot of Chewie. And the way I looked at it was that it was a mime character that clever departments would put all the town in afterwards. And it worked I think it worked very well.
Well, I think we'll all agree here that Chewie wouldn't be Chewie without you, sir.
Thank you.
Peter, you had a very special relationship with Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
What's your favourite memory of Carrie Fisher?
My favourite memory is she's a hell of a rebel, but she's also a beautiful princess. Think about that. Oh, that me?
George, What was your inspiration for Chewbacca?
Well, the stories were all true, which is I had a large dog named Indiana, Malibu, Alaskan Malibu, and he would ride around in the car in the front seat.
Not driving.
Not driving. And, you know, I love that image of driving with this large, because he was, when he sat in the car, he was bigger than I was. And so that was where I said, that would be a fun character for Star Wars. And originally he was, originally the Ewoks were, the Wookiees were what the Ewoks became, which is they weren't technical at all, they were primitive. But then as I moved along, and I realized I had to cut the Wookiees out at the end of the movie, I decided to save one and make him the co-pilot. And that's really how he ended up with his starring role.
Wow. That's incredible, isn't it? Out of accident comes something so brilliant. Yeah, that's marvelous. So Billy D. Williams, welcome to Celebration.
Yes, sir.
What was it like for you to join an already established cast? You were the new boy on the block.
I had a really good time. Everybody was wonderful. And I especially liked visiting the people behind the scenes. That was a very special experience for me, besides working with these wonderful actors.
So were you a fan of Star Wars before you were involved?
Well, I was a fan of THX 1138. Yeah, and that's when I got turned on to George Lucas. And so I was, you know, at that particular time, there were all of these wonderful young filmmakers that were changing the face of cinema. And George certainly was at the helm of that whole period. And so for me, I was pretty established as more so than most of the actors that were in the film. And I was doing some interesting things with my life and my career. And so when I had the opportunity to work with George Lucas, I mean, I thought that was like going straight to heaven. No, seriously, it was a wonderful, extraordinary experience that I'm very happy to have had.
Wow, it is. Now, Lando is a very smooth character. Did you bring a lot to the character? Is that a lot of Billy D. Williams in there, or did George say this is how it should be?
George and Irv Kirshner, and but the thing is, the two components, the cape, and Calrissian, an Armenian name, IAN. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. Let me play around with this whole idea. Because I didn't want to do a kind of stereotypical cliche kind of character. I wanted to bring something really special to it. Something bigger than life.
And you certainly did that. You certainly did that. Now, George, it must feel pretty rewarding to be surrounded by 1, 2, 3, dare I say, 4 of your greatest character creations. Why don't we go crazy and make it 5? Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Hamill! Welcome, Mark. So, Mark, what does it mean to you to be here at Celebration? We're celebrating 40 years of Star Wars.
Well, I can never get over the fans.
inspired you, where you met your future wife or husband, the ways that you passed down to the next generation. It's really moving, and certainly nothing I've ever taken for granted. I'm always just stunned at the passion that has lasted all these years. George, what was it about this guy that made you say, this is Luke Skywalker? What qualities did Mark have?
Well, we did a lot for a year. A year sitting in a little room with, talking to actors every 5 minutes, and then weeding those out and weeding them out, and eventually having them do readings in the room, and then we went on and then we did screen tests. And we did the screen tests with all the sort of finalists for all the three main characters. And we would mix them. So I think we had maybe 2 or 3 of each of you. And you would each test with another person until we found the combination of the group that worked the best together. The group that was like ready to be an ensemble and that played it, as old friends. I was trying to get that, even though they start out not knowing each other, I wanted to have the chemistry of them working together built in. And that and the fact that he was shorter than I was.
I tried to talk about that. Does she really have to say everything in those George was talking to her? Well, I didn't say that.
I like short people. Look,
that's why you like me.
There's the secret right here. I can't even reach the floor.
It's funny you should talk about that audition, because I believe we have a clip of that right now. Let's take a look.
Fear is their greatest defense. I doubt if the actual security there is much greater than on Aquilai or Sullus, and what there is most likely directed towards a large-scale assault.
So you begged George to cut that line, didn't you?
Well, what it was when I read it, intellectually understood what it was. Now, I've never forgotten this after all these years. But we can't turn back. Fear is their greatest defense. I doubt if the actual security there is any greater than it was on Aquilai or Stellus, and what there is most likely directed towards a large-scale assault. So it makes sense. Fear is their greatest defense, because they're intimidating this gigantic contraption. I doubt if the actual security there is any greater than it was on Aquilai or Stellus, 2 made-up planetoids. I get that. What there is most likely directed towards a large-scale assault. In other words, we're waiting for an armada. We could slip in this little tiny hamburger-shaped Millennium Falcon thing. So it made sense intellectually. The trick was, how can you make it sound like it's spontaneous dialogue that's just rolling off the top of your tongue? Well, not so easy.
I'm going to say he was right. It wasn't much, a bit much. Although it's stuck in your brain.
It's stuck in my brain. I've never been able to get rid of it.
But it was one of those lines up there with, it'll take a few moments for the navigator to calculate the coordinates, or I'm here to send you the message, the one Carrie does all the time, which is the thing. But it was the one that actually said, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, it eventually went away. We never even shot it for when we actually went away.
Yeah, I think the scene itself got cut out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was my favorite, because I loved Harrison. I said, look what Harrison has to say. It'll take a few moments to navigate to calculate the coordinates. He'll never do it. We would make a book on whether he'd be able to actually say it.
Well, I'm sitting here as Warwick Davis, but also a fan. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when we've got George Lucas here, we've got C-3PO, we've got Lando Calrissian, we've got Chewbacca, and Luke Skywalker. I mean, it doesn't get much more epic than this, does it? Or actually, maybe it does. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome celebration?
Watch this. It'll take a few minutes to calculate the coordinates. Take a few minutes for the Navicomputer to calculate the coordinates. I said to George, you can type this stuff, but you can't say it. Move your mouth while you're talking, while you're typing it, and I couldn't say it. It took me like 15 takes to say
Such a
it.
pleasure to see you. And, thank you
Well, it's a pleasure to see you.
At your first celebration. We managed to keep it a secret, considering you landed your plane on I-4.
Yeah, but it was a good landing.
How did Star Wars impact you 40 years ago? What does it mean to you today?
Oh, it's made no difference in my life whatsoever. I think it was the beginning of an incredible ride. Actually, it wasn't the very beginning. The very beginning was also with George, and it was a part in American Graffiti. And then I went back to doing carpentry work. and then along came George once again, pulled me up by my bootstraps and put me to work in an extraordinary event that we all celebrate. And it's been a good ride.
Tell me, what was it about Harrison that initially drew you to it as an actor?
Well, in American Graffiti, I could see, that he was a real talent, and he didn't have much of a part. So he was actually working with the carpenter. American Graffiti wasn't a big hit for him. He had to go back to work. Later, I found out it was the casting director that said, "Here, sit out right out in front of the office and pretend like you're building something."
Rubbish. I was actually installing a door for Francis Ford Coppola as a favor to his art director who had built the door, couldn't find anybody to install it. And I said, I'll do it, but I'm only going to do it at night because I don't want all people walking through there while I'm trying to do the thing. And one morning, in walked, while I was finishing up the door, in walked George with Richard Dreyfuss. Richard Dreyfuss, remember? Richard Dreyfuss? No. on, which was a surprise, and he was having, I thought, it was an interview for a new science fiction film. Anyway, we just chatted and said hello, but the story has gotten a little warped. I was actually there working. Yeah. No, I mean, sit out in front and wait for you, George. I love you, but I don't wait out in front. I was working, making a living. And happily I still am. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
He got the part because in the end, I asked him, I said, this is about spaceships and flying and stuff like that. I said, you know how to fly?
I said, fly, yeah. Land.
You talked about his acting, but how was his carpentry?
Really? I built stuff too, so I was very an affinity there at being able to appreciate fine craftsmanship when it comes to carpentry.
He delivered.
Yeah.
It's nice to have something to fall back on.
George, when did it click for you that this cast was something extra special?
You know,
you don't notice it until you're shooting.
Right, but you can have the most brilliant cast in the world, but they have a story to tell. And the story that we had to tell was more than sufficient. It was full of humor and emotion and conflict, and it was a brilliant invention of a mythology that has sustained interest for over 40 years, and that's made up of out of whole cloth by George. And an actor without a story to tell is, might as well go home. So it was a brilliant opportunity for all of us.
Certainly from me and on behalf of all the fans here in the room and throughout the world watching via live stream, thank you, each and every one of you, for your contribution to Star Wars. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Mayhew, Peggy Williams, Andrew Daniels, casting and storytelling, you really created something quite exceptional. On behalf of all of us, thank you.
Thank you.
Celebrate 40 years of Star Wars without remembering our beloved princess.
Carrie Fisher, and I've said many times now, that she really is a modern woman. And she isn't just a woman that, you know, you put guys' clothes on her and she becomes a hero. She was a princess. She was a senator. She played a part that was very smart. And she was having to hold her own against two big lugs, you know, these goofballs that were screwing everything up. But she was the boss. It was her war. And when I cast it, I said, I really want somebody young to play the part. I want somebody very young. And when Carrie came in, she was that character. She was very strong, very smart, very funny, very bold, very tough. You know, there really wasn't much of a question. There are not very many people like her. You know, they're 1 in a billion. And for this particular part, it was absolutely perfect because she could hold her own against anything. And she wore a dress through the whole thing, but she was the toughest one of the group. And that's the key to Carrie being able to play that part. It was a hard part to play. And she pulled it off brilliantly. And it really shows the level of her talent, and at the same time, she was fun to be with. She kept the whole group going. She was very funny, very smart, and very challenging in terms of pointing out that certain pieces of dialogue were a little hard to say. But she was brilliant, and obviously we'll all miss her, but she'll always be the princess who took command and never backed down, never was in jeopardy. She was always helping the other guys get out of the messes they created. So, we'll all love her forever and ever.
I'm going to mirror a little bit of that. I think that there was no greater honor than that of working with the late, truly great Carrie Fisher. She was unlike anyone you've known, unlike anyone in this room. Her humor, her insight, her brilliance. When you associate Princess Leia, you realize that was Carrie. She was not only be remembered forever by those who were lucky enough to know her, but she will be remembered forever, even by those who are not old enough yet to say the words, "May the Force be with you." Someone who has known Carrie her entire life, whose world has revolved around Star Wars and is uniquely suited to give us wonderful insight on this remarkable woman, is her daughter, Billy. Please welcome Billy Moore.
My mom used to say she never knew where Princess Leia ended and Carrie Fisher began. She went from being an unknown actress, the daughter of Debbie Reynolds and Eddie Fisher, to Princess Leia, a character synonymous with the idea of the ultimate strong woman, a soldier, a fighter, a beyond capable, independent, sensible woman in control of her own destiny, a rebel who resisted the norm. She was imperfect in many ways, but her imperfections and willingness to speak about them are what made her more than perfect. My mom, like Leia, wasn't ever afraid to speak her mind and say things that might have made most people uncomfortable, but not me and not you. That was why she loved you, because you accepted and embraced all of her. The strong soldier of a woman she was, and also the vulnerable side of her, who often openly fought her own dark side, knowing early on that we all have a dark side of our own, whatever it may be. But she knew that it wasn't about the fight that you were fighting, but how you fought it, the way you resisted. No one could have known what this once little dream of a movie would eventually become, and what it would mean to millions worldwide. Mostly not her. But in our world, Star Wars ultimately became our religion, our family, and our way of life. And I wanted to be here with all of you because I know that many of you feel the same way. When she surrounded herself with fans at celebrations like this, she never felt more at home. She could spend hours talking to people and learning about their lives and how Star Wars and Leia touched them the same way it touched us. If left to her own devices, she would have always been the last person to leave the convention center, having met and had a shared Carrie moment with every single person there. Nothing about her was a performance. She loved you. She loved these movies. She loved the people she got to make them with, and she loved this incredible character she got to create, this force called Leia. She taught me 3 important things. One thing all mothers should teach their daughters. General Kenobi, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. Now he begs you to help him in his struggle against the Empire. I regret that I am unable to present my father's request to you in person, but my ship has fallen under attack, and I'm afraid my mission to bring you to Alderaan has failed. I have placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion into the memory system of his R2 unit. My father will know how to retrieve it. You must see this droid safely delivered to him on Alderaan. This is our most desperate hour. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Secondly, she taught me that if life isn't funny, then it's just true, and that is unacceptable. And finally, I learned by knowing her that the most evolved person is seemingly a contradiction. They're both the strongest and the most vulnerable person in the room, and that was her. That is Leia. Thank you for loving her and carrying on what she stands for. I'm beyond grateful.
Okay, carry 3. Ready? Yep.
A little short for a stormtrooper.
Well, I guess you don't know everything about women yet.
I love you.
I know.
Carrie Fisher, 19.
I think I am Princess Leia and Princess Leia is me. It's like a Mobius striptease.
So I think George did get confused. The less clothing on women, the more confused he is. Probably in a good way.
Gary's going to sleep. Gary's bored as hell.
Thank you.
Do you have any advice for the younger members of the cast?
I've told Daisy not to go through the crew like wildfire.
She just is the most entertaining and shockingly funny person you'll ever know.
And you just feel good about yourself and confident all the time. That's why people want to be celebrities. Okay, that's not true.
What's interesting is that when you get Carrie going, she still remembers all the lines from the old films.
General Kenobi, years ago, you served my father in the Clone Wars.
Well, now, he begs you to help him in his struggle
Against the Empire. I regret that I am unable to present my father's request to you in person.
But my ship is called under attack, and I'm afraid my mission to bring you to Alderaan has failed.
I have placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion with the memory systems of this R2 unit. My father won't know how to retrieve it.
You must see this droid safely delivered to him on Alderaan.
This is our most desperate hour.
Help me. Obi-Wan Kenobi. I love these movies, and actually they've become better for me now because I have a daughter and she loves them. I loved that Princess Leia was a very strong woman, and I adored how feisty Carrie Fisher was. I could really sense and feel her fire, and that was important for me as a young girl to see that kind of woman.
She was very sure of herself, very funny, very, together, very worldly.
Ce n'est pas une victime de princesse. Elle est très forte. Et c'est bien, il n'y a pas beaucoup des femmes fortes dans les films.
Somebody has to save our skins.
I love her, and I love her when she drives me crazy, and I love her when she makes me laugh. She's just delightful.
Carrie's an amazing and unique person. She's got an incredible intellect. She's got real courage, real gall.
Ray, may the Force be with you.
Conclusion, Your Honor. I hope I slept with you to get the job, because if not, who the hell was that guy? What was the question?
It's John Williams who just took the stage.
of Star Wars, the greatest composer, conductor in the universe, John Williams.
Looking to catch up on the latest Star Wars books? Try listening to them on audio. Featuring sound effects, top-notch narrators, and music directly from the movies, Star Wars audiobooks are the definitive listening experience.
From Han Solo to C-3PO to Admiral Akbar, you'll recognize all your favorite characters. Listen to movie tie-ins like Rogue One, and The Force Awakens to book titles such as Thrawn and Empire's End Aftermath to classic audiobooks like William Shakespeare's Star Wars.
With Star Wars audiobooks, you'll have plenty of Star Wars listening to keep you entertained. Visit penguinrandomhouseaudio.com/Star Wars for sample clips and to start listening now. And be sure to go to booth 2526 where Penguin Random House Audio is going to be. Mark Thompson is going to be making some appearances. He's amazing. There's going to be a lot of people to chat with and incredible things, giveaways, and all kinds of good stuff. And you just might see Corey and I there as well.
That's right. The other thing, too, is we're kind of promoting this, too, because we love audiobooks as well, Dan. It's one way to ingest the books. I think, personally, for me, it's nice on a drive. If folks are looking to catch up along the way, definitely grab one for your trip out to Celebration.
Coffee with Kenobi is also sponsored by the Star Wars digital card trader collecting app from Topps. And Corey, this app has seriously been exploding.
Absolutely, Dan, and it's only been in the last few days. They came out with a new set called the Retro Print Set, and again, these are just like old-styled designs from Topps cards that you can collect. They're unique enough. I got the first one, and I texted you, said, check this out, this is awesome. It's got Luke and Vader fighting on, kind of looks almost like a comic scene, and I don't really know exactly where it's from, but definitely it's unique and a lot of fun. And again, there's so much here in this app to do. You can get on and you can get your favorite characters. You can collect cards from anywhere from Clone Wars to Rebels to Rogue One to The Force Awakens, and in between everything there. So there's so much for fans to get on and check out. There's daily credits. The whole app itself is free for fans. And again, if you're looking for something to kind of pass the time, if you're waiting in line, or you want to have something to do, again, this is a unique way to be able to collect these cards, open packs, get new cards, and trade with friends.
So there are so many different sets to choose from. Everything that you love and I love about collecting in a galaxy far, far away.
The Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for.
Well, Corey, the Star Wars Visual Encyclopedia is the latest from DK Publishing. It's an amazing book written by some amazing people, and we happen to be here with them while they are signing, doing a little bit of multitasking. So Adam Bray, of course, is no stranger to Coffee with Kenobi, having hung out with him a little bit at Anaheim. Adam, good to see you again.
Hey, great to see you guys too.
How's it feel to be a part of Celebration again, and especially in this capacity?
Yeah, it's fun and exciting. It's a little weird too. This is my second time to Celebration Orlando. The first time I was actually just a regular fan, and so I came and did things fans do, and then between now and then I've done 7 or 8 Star Wars books. So it's kind of like a homecoming to come back here now that I'm involved with stuff.
Right. And you're a featured guest, which is super cool. I saw your reaction on Twitter. That was fun.
Yeah. It's really bizarre because I've been like on the front page of the website for a week or two, and I just figured after an hour they'd like rotate my picture to somebody else, and I couldn't believe it actually just stayed that way. So it's kind of been great to get all that free publicity.
So Adam, for your book here, how does it feel to be signing, I guess, on the live, as people were walking through and, and seeing, like you said, what's the difference between like us last year as a fan and this year as being actually signing the books?
Yeah, it feels weird signing books because it's like, I feel like I'm, putting graffiti. So it's I'm very honored that people, want me to do it and will actually get in line to see me. It's really great. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, I mean, the book itself is amazing because DK continues to hit it out of the park with amazing designs and literature. And so it's this perfect marriage of image and words. So you've obviously seen the book. What do you think of the final product, and how much did that influence you as you created this, knowing what it was going to look like?
I love what they've done. I think DK always does such a great job. And really, if I wasn't writing these books myself, I would be, in there buying them with everybody else, because they're always such, a great product. So, and they're a real keeper. They're something that you always keep, you don't get rid of, because they do such a great job on them.
Did you take the lead on the Rebels section again this time?
Wherever I can, I always try to specialize in the Rebels part. I'm a little bit selfish with them. But this book is unique because it includes everything. It's all the movies and the TV shows, and it divides everything up into categories and groups, kind of like a taxonomy of things. Whereas before you'd get books that are divided up sort of in a timeline by the particular movies, but here it kind of mixes everything together, so it's different from everything else.
Is there a particular thing that when you wrote it, you thought, oh, I like this, and then you saw it and you thought, wow, this turned out even better than I could possibly imagine?
Yeah, it's most of that way with DK stuff. I really like the way the creatures and plants and monsters and character spreads turned out.
Good. Hey, good to talk with you, my friend.
Yeah, you too. You too.
So now this guy.
So next we have Cole Horton. He's signing away over here, scribbling all kinds of crazy stuff on the people's books. But it's all good. And with this publication, Cole, your contributions to it, how does it feel for when it came out and kind of holding it in your hands for the first time?
It was cool, yeah, because I don't get to hold it, right? Like we see it in digital, and a lot of this stuff was really rough when I sent it in. And so to see the final product, it's pretty great. It was bigger than I thought, and just sort of the quality of everything. Because we often use a lot of really rough images where we're just doing layouts, we're sort of working through it. So a lot of times I'm looking at really blurry images that have sort of been half cropped out of something. And to see it all nice and polished was a bit of a surprise. I spent hours reading my own book on this one. Because, I wrote a third of it, right? So the other 2/3 are a surprise to me a lot of times. And I really spent some time with it.
I guess how much of it is that you wrote into it didn't make it in, maybe, or something? Did you find anything like that?
This one was pretty straightforward. I think in large part because you're working in such bite-sized chunks. Yeah. There wasn't a ton to prune, and anything that didn't make it, I knew of in advance because there was some back and forth. I was actually surprised. I mean, they accepted some stuff, some references to novels and things like that, and it went through without a hitch as far as I know.
And how would you compare writing this to absolutely everything you need to know about Star Wars? Because they're similar, but this one takes it definitely to another level.
Yeah, the writing process was entirely different, actually. With absolutely everything, we are sent a theme or a topic, and then we write from a blank page. On this one, they actually sent us at least the rough layouts, and so we know what we sort of need to speak to. I found this easier, actually. I think absolutely everything is hard because you're trying to find a balance between important information and interesting information, and sometimes those aren't the same thing. And with this one, it was just much more straightforward, and we also had so much more to work with, because when we were writing absolutely everything, and Adam was there, we didn't know a lot about the future of Star Wars at that time, and that was a transition period in a lot of ways. And now to have more films, more direction, it made the whole thing easier.
Is there a particular topic or section that you wrote about that you find a little more daunting because it's just so sacred to you?
Blasters were really hard because I knew if I didn't get it right, I would have Legion members just pouring out at me to tell me I was wrong. So I spent a ton of time working on blasters, actually, and making sure those were right. And I think we ended up moving from 1 spread to 2 spreads because there were so many blasters. I didn't want to give any up. And in the end, it worked out nicely, but I felt like the wrath of the internet would be mine if I didn't do it perfectly.
I've heard that happens on occasion.
Yeah, the internet, they keep you honest. They are really good for edits, man. They know their stuff.
The blaster section is super cool too because of the detail. Did you get to see some of the images before you put your verbiage into it, or was it just kind of off of memory and research?
Oh no, pretty much all the images were there. Only in a couple of cases did I have to call things out, like use this or find an image of this. But in a lot of cases, especially with blasters, I received a white page with just all of the blasters sort of dumped on, and then we sorted through them later. So there were dozens and dozens of them that I could sort of get my mind around and make themes out of, that sort of thing.
And any truth to the rumor that you're actually Snoke? That's all I needed to know. That's all I needed to know, Cole. Hey.
I am not allowed to speculate on the future. Place your bets now, though.
Hey, thanks for being back on again, Cole.
Thanks, guys.
Next, we have Tricia Barr. And Tricia, I know my kids love these type of books. I mean, all fans can read these books. How awesome is it to be able to write for all kinds of different types of fans?
I have nieces and nephews, and this is kind of what I think about them when I'm writing it. But I also know that the adult kids of the world will be reading these books too. So I keep that in mind. Try to make both levels.
That's great, and I think something for fans to look out too is there's also like expanding things. Is there anything that maybe that was more challenging than other things to write for?
I had to do the binocular section.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Did you know there were so many? There's a lot of binoculars, and macro binoculars and electro binoculars and just all sorts of types. And when you start looking and paying attention and then having to go make sure that they pick the right ones and you're labeled correctly who it belonged to. Yeah. And so, that was one of the sections that I was like, ooh, okay, this will be some work.
That's great.
Honestly, that was one of the sections I was looking at. I thought, wow, they've poured over this. So I love that you wrote that. Of course, it doesn't really label who writes what. And so when you're creating this is a little bit different from what you wrote before. And so this is a different kind of visual guide, but it's very much similar. How do you compare the process for the two?
For Ultimate Star Wars, we were doing more about like the characters, the individuals, and so you had to really know story stuff, and this was more like detail oriented. So there were places like in the politics section where I needed to know the overarching part of Star Wars story and what the politics play was. But this one's more just like, the nitty gritty, and that can be a little intimidating sometimes. Where is it? Where can I find that? I was pouring through a lot of the old visual guides from the movies and stuff, because that's where a lot of the DK had their source material, and then obviously Lucasfilm has their own. So trying to make sure that you had it and got it, that was the hard part.
And it's very much a different kind of a writing audience, so you have to have a different kind of a voice, and you're already a talented writer, and so you've tackled fiction, and now you tackle sort of like historical, analytical fiction. I don't even know how you would compare the genre for this, but they're all different, but you still bring the same basic passion for writing that you've always had.
Yeah, you just want to try to make it tight and make it clean, and it has to be, sometimes it's a challenge because you get so many words, and then you're like, I'd want 5 more words. 5 more words would make this just perfect, so then you have to figure out, okay, what am I going to cut out? Maybe I could just say it a little differently, and it forces you to really be concise, and make sure you get the point across.
I'm interested to know, too, what was your favorite part, and how does it feel to be signing the book itself?
It's always awesome to sign the book. I think people have received it really well, just to see it. The outfits was my favorite. I did the royal outfits, a lot of the costumes, but that was a labor of love to make sure. And one of the editors, Natalie, who did all the visual work, she and I worked back and forth. I made some suggestions. I said, well, to make it look a little cleaner and to really highlight some of the details on the royal wardrobe. So that was fun. We kind of really worked on that really hard.
Last one, how did you feel with the 40th anniversary panel day with all that incredible that energy and that love for Carrie Fisher?
I felt like she will always be with us. That was important, so that she's not going to be forgotten. So she's an important part of our life.
Well, hey, thank you so much again for being on. Great to see you.
Great to see you.
Chewie, get us out of here!
If you would like to respond to our question of the show, have a comment, or just want to say hello, send us an email or MP3 at feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com. Or if you have a specific question or comment for either of us individually, email us at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com or coryc@coffeewithkenobi.com, or visit us at coffeewithkenobi.com and click on the Contact Us section, or comment on one of the stories featured on the site. If you enjoy the show, please write a review in iTunes or Stitcher. You can also like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, as well as keep up to date at our Twitter feed at Coffee with Kenobi. You can also find us on Tumblr at coffeewithkenobi.tumblr.com. If you enjoy the jazz music, the album is Eye to Eye by Steve Torok.
Give the evacuation code signal.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along. Move along.